Hello and welcome to the Two Act Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Addy, and I'm joined by my other co-host,
John.
I was waiting for you to say John, man. You kept me hanging. All right. Today we're going to be talking about Hitman, a new black comedy romance starring Glen Powell and Adria Arjona, and it is directed by Richard Linklater. Story goes as follows. A straight-laced professor, Gary Johnson, who moonlights as a fake hitman for the New Orleans Police Department, gifted at inhabiting different guises and personalities, tries to catch hapless people hoping to bump off their enemies. Gary descends into morally dubious territory when he finds himself attracted to one of these potential criminals, a beautiful young woman named Madison. As Madison falls for one of Gary's hitman personas, the mysteriously sexy Ron, their steamy affair sets off a chain of reactions of play acting, deception, and escalating stakes. So, I guess we can go with opening thoughts.
Sure.
John, what did you think about the film?
I thought the film was pretty good. It wasn't. I didn't get really upset. It didn't have anything in it that made me flip out. In fact, this movie was loosely based off a real guy named Gary Johnson.
Yeah, it was. And he worked as well for the police department as a undercover hitman. So very interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing. So that was new to me. I mean, I know hitmans don't really exist. Maybe they do, but I had no idea the police actually had a designated role for an undercover hitman. Was there any other thoughts?
I was gonna say, in America, they surely do have hitmen. There's something called the dark web, and people hire them on them, and then they find out that they're actually FBI, and then they actually get arrested. But whether or not there actually is, sure. I'm sure there's mafiosos in America that are doing that. And in fact, he did sting operations for the cops in the 80s and the 90s. And unfortunately, before this movie got released on Netflix, he passed away in 2022.
That's a shame, because it would have been nice to see that he was an inspiration for a very good film. I mean, I want to say, like, Richard Linklater is one of the most beloved indie directors. He's made classics like Dazed and Confused, the Boyhood film, and obviously he did the After trilogy with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. So he's obviously very well respected in the indie film community in the United States. And it's very interesting because this film, I believe, was made only on a budget of $1 million, which is, for today's films, not a lot.
I want to say it was 10 million.
No, I just checked. Apparently, it was $1 million.
Oh.
And it's grossed over 8.8 million in its limited theatrical run. But the interesting thing is, this film premiered in the Venice Film Festival in 2023. And it went through a successful festival circuit where it was acclaimed and received rave reviews, particularly Glen Powell for his performance as Gary Johnson / Ron the Hitman. But it was only until the new year where Netflix picked up the film. So for a while, it didn't have a distributor, and it was sort of waiting to pick up a place to finally reach audiences. So very interesting journey. I just think, like, personally, I really enjoyed this. It's a nice little breezy screwball comedy, but it has like elements of like mystery thriller, but it's on the lighter side. But for me, I really enjoyed the chemistry between Glen Powell and Adria Arjona. I think like they lit the screen up the minute they met. And I just loved how they played off each other throughout the time. And I guess like the film really explores whether one can change, and the psychosis of Gary, who's just an ordinary guy. I guess this is a good point to segue into Gary. What did you think of Gary and Ron?
Oh, a little bit of a correction. So not only does he play Gary and does he play Ron, he also plays a secret Russian hitman. He has all these crazy characters.
Motorboat, like
Miami
Vice.
Like Miami Vice. Yes. I enjoy a lot of that. In fact,
Patrick Bateman impersonation.
Yeah. My favorite part of this movie is those really over the top goofy characters that he's using to like do a hitman like persona. He's like, I know how I can get these people convinced. Like so there's this like hillbilly that he like puts on a different character for, and then he does the Russian guy for the old lady, or not the old lady, it was the trailer lady. And then it's just like the best part is like
he does the Tilda Swinton British accent for that dude,
which
goofy.
Is pretty.
Yeah. You can just tell he's having a ball with this character, because there's so much depth for acting, and any actor would really love to sink their teeth into this role because of the range it allows to bring out. And it's interesting. I think I'd also want to point out that not only Glen Powell not only stars in this film, but he also produced and co-wrote the script. So he had a lot of influence on the entire project as a whole. And I think that really shows when you watch the film, his presence. I really do believe like he has like star charisma, and he's obviously blowing up now because of like, I think like he was in Top Gun Maverick as Hangman, and he's done a few successful indies, and I think he's starring in another upcoming action film called Twisters, which is about hurricanes. So he's clearly having a great moment. And you can really see this film is an actor's dream, just to give space to work with. Should we talk about like, what did you think of Gary before you met the Hitman?
I'm gonna be honest, I liked him more. Cause he kind of, it was like he kind of reminded me of myself. Like I'm not a cat dad, but I love cats. And he's very like anti, like, I guess like confrontational. And I resonate with that, cause that's kind of how I am. And then he's working as a teacher, which the teacher stuff, didn't really jive with me, but cause the real guy was a teacher, and, the sting operation stuff, like that was kind of neat. You see all these weird characters. Like the only reason why he's doing this Hitman stuff is because the last Hitman impersonator screwed up on the job, and he got temporarily like put on leave. The Jasper guy.
So Jasper, played by Austin Emilio, I believe, very good performance as just a dirty cop. And yeah, I think like I gotta agree to an extent. I think Gary is a pretty like lovable guy, but like I think people see him as a sort of like a nerd, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, he's like me. Yeah, he's a amiable school teacher. Students clearly feel like he's a bit extra with he teaches philosophy and psychology, and quite clearly has very interesting things to convey to a class that doesn't necessarily resonate with what he has to say. But you see that the alternative life that he has working with the New Orleans Police Department as I think he's sort of a tech guy, and then he's forced, like you said, to be a hitman. And I think it's a good example of a guy embracing different personalities, and he's sort of faking it till you make it. I mean, you can see he's scared. He's terrified when he's been told to do this the first time, dress up as a hitman and get the evidence to convict the guy they're chasing. But after that first time, he's a natural. Like, he just picks it up.
Yeah, I really liked the added, you have to change your pants, because there's no way a hitman would wear that. He like changes his pants with that other guy in the crew.
Yeah, the crew, this film does have a small supporting cast. I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah. The larger lady, she's been in a lot of stuff. I think she's even in Parks and Rec.
She's been involved in some very big projects. If I'm not mistaken, her name is Retta.
Okay.
She's a stand-up comedian. And yeah, you're right. She's been in Parks and Recreation. And at times I did kind of get a sitcom vibe with the tone of the dialogues at times. Like, every time where like he nailed down a convict and they get their mugshots on.
Just for laughs.
It's so funny because like it's just their bizarre reaction that they've just been conned. Yeah, and as much as like I enjoyed Gary's different personas and like costumes, I also enjoyed like the range of like the stupid people he had to deal with who were like trying to obviously commit a crime by paying him off. Like that kid who wanted to have his mom murdered was pretty funny.
Right.
And,
she's a bitch. Can definitely relate to him.
American teenager.
Right. Being one of those trolls.
And also the redneck who's like shooting I think they're shooting plates in the air. That scene was pretty funny as well. But I gotta say, for like the first 30 minutes, the film does a good job, like opening up, showing you Gary's lifestyle, showing his home, his cats. He's kind of like single, not really got anyone, but you can see he's kind of content with it. He's not complaining. He's not necessarily, looking desperate, but you can definitely see that when he does get put in the spotlight of being a hitman, it opens up something in him that wasn't necessarily there. And I think I want to hark on that key conversation where he meets his ex-wife in the campus he's teaching, who tells him like, you never changed and you just need to meet someone who's fucked up as you. I was wondering what you thought about that conversation.
Yeah, it was fine. The scenes around that are the parts that bother me. It's just whenever he's in the classroom, he's a teacher, he's teaching psychology. It's just like, it just feels like the themes in the movie and the themes in that classroom, they just don't jive with the rest of the movie. At least I feel that. Like, I feel like the character, he's not practicing what he preaches. And obviously that's definitely hypocritical. But when he's hiring the hitman, like that's like the best part, when he's being hired. I felt like I was getting kind of like the Fall Guy, where it feels like a little bit preachy. It's a little bit hitting me over the head. In fact, I feel like they like cut him out of the movie when I would have liked it a lot more. Rather, what I mean is if they cut out those teacher scenes, it's just like it's whatever. They could have added a lot of stuff in this movie to make it like way over the top. Like in line with the movie. I liked that scene with his ex-girlfriend also as well. Sorry, I'm very, very, very scatterbrained.
No. I agree. I think there is one of my nitpicks were there were structural issues with the pacing. Maybe I felt like for the most part it is a very breezy watch, but maybe the first 30 minutes is where I had the most issues with, because I feel like after the first introduction and the setup, like that's all well and good, but the scenes where again it goes into the classroom and then it goes hovering around a bit in that segment, I felt like we were kind of missing out on the story to really hit the gear running. And
Yeah,
it's only it's only like when he meets Madison where things starts to flow.
it's so I feel like it, like you said, it breaks up the pacing, and I feel like I'm going like I'm drag racing at the beginning, like I'm just like, I'm enjoying this, and then we hit one of those scenes and I'm like, what happened? Why is my car stalling? It's kind of what I felt.
True. I felt the same way, but the minute Adria Arjona shows up, we got to talk about that scene, because I think it's like 30 minutes into the film where, so finally he's built a bit of a reputation. And I like first of all, I like the choice of showing, the sequence of him playing different hitmen in like, a montage. I thought that really worked well, because obviously they could have like spent a whole chunk just going through different characters, but I felt like it could have probably affected the story. So I thought the decision to use a montage and to get all those characters and personas in was very well done. And it added a much needed briskness and energy to the film, and also set up the scene where he meets Madison for the first time, because by then he's built up a reputation and he's confident. So that scene where like she comes in and like meets him at a diner or a cafe or whatever, I really enjoyed the chemistry. Like right off the bat, you could tell like there was something there, like they just were vibing. And there was a moment where you can see he nearly breaks character as Ron and reverts to Gary when she like looks at the dog and says, "Oh, he's so handsome." And I was like, she says like, "Oh, I don't necessarily like cats a lot," because you can see that strikes a chord in him somewhere, because he feels offended and feels the need to be like, "Well, do you think I'm a dog person or a cat person?" That was pretty funny. And then they just riff off each other, and it was funny because it didn't feel like she was there to hire a hitman at all until like the very end of that scene where he manages to convince her not to do it, because she's obviously not thinking things straight, and I think he feels like she's being led to making a horrible decision that could cost her well-being. But what did you think of that scene in Adria Arjona?
Oh, I enjoyed it. Also, I forgot. This is definitely a spoiler discussion. We haven't hit anything juicy yet, but we're starting to get there. I really enjoyed that scene. I liked the callbacks to the pie joke, that silly, goofy, like dad joke. All pie is good pie.
All pie is good pie.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's cheesy. This, like you said, that montage leading up to this, I think that was the best part of the movie. It's, in fact, I'd watch a whole movie where he's just doing that. He's just playing characters like that. It's where I feel like this movie shines. Like it's a good, like you said, it's nice, brisk. It doesn't hang around too long like those freaking classroom scenes. I like they're bouncing off each other. I like that he doesn't break character, because that would kind of ruin the whole thing. And it is kind of amazing. There's a lot of lying in this movie, and it's kind of surprising that he doesn't like break character as a hitman earlier, because like in that first one, he easily could have, because he didn't know what the hell he's doing. But, like I said, it's really surprising. Like the insane amount of lying in this movie.
Yeah, it is. And their chemistry works so well, doesn't it? Like,
Oh yeah. Especially when they get together and she's putting on like a sailor outfit or whatever. was like the
Air
stewardess.
hostess.
Yeah. I was into that. Like I was like,
I was just like, what I was really like, what I really liked was like how she wasn't so bothered over the fact that he kills people for a living. And in many ways, like you could see like her energy like kind of matched with Ron's energy, and like when I thought that's very appealing, like when a character is into another character and they're both willing to like be the same amount of crazy for each other, or match the same amount of craziness that they have individually. I think it makes it makes their relationship a lot more appealing to watch. And I really enjoyed the sort of, because normally a girl, or even a guy in that position who if the roles were reversed, would have been curious, or would have been scared, or would have been horrified over the idea of a hitman. But she doesn't mind at all. I found that refreshing.
well, she was already past that point, and there's like a whole like stereotype about women being attracted to serial killers. I know a lot of women that watch those serial killer documentaries and are like, "Oh, he's just misunderstood." I'm just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but Ron doesn't necessarily come across as a serial killer.
No,
He just comes across as a really masculine, cool guy. You know, he's got his leather jacket. You can see that Ron's a lot different than Gary.
He's everything.
Gary's kind of nerdy, wears oversized clothes. Ron's more masculine, more of a hunk, wears leather jackets, slick back hair, has a bit of charm with the way he speaks. Is a lot less stuttering, and doesn't really think about what he's doing. And I think that ties in really well to the conversation he has with his ex-girlfriend, where she mentions the 5 traits to change, and how she specifically points out, in order to do it, you need to just embody them. And that doesn't mean that your old trait disappears. It just means the new trait is your new personalities dialed up, while the older ones dial down. And I do feel like over the course of this film, that's exactly what happens to Gary. You see like Ron dialing it up a lot more because Ron's cool, and you can see Gary like dialing down, but it's still Gary. End of the day, it's still the cat dad we know.
Yeah, and this is the part of the movie that diverges from the real guy. The real guy never fell in love with one of the people he was trying to honeypot.
Oh, right. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, there wasn't crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see they've loosely taken inspiration from the real Gary, and
you know how loosely
managed
works.
A lot of creative liberties.
Yeah, like horror movies in general, like any of those Annabelles, they're loosely based off of Raggedy Ann.
Oh no,
they have nothing to do with it at all.
Completely made up. But
right.
This one, on the other hand, I thought like I really liked the part where the story really gets going in the second act, where like they've established like they're dating and they're having like quite clearly they're having a relationship, but it gets to the point where like he meets, I think that the inciting incident is like they meet her husband or her ex-husband, and he pulls out I think he threatens Ron, and then he pulls out a gun at him, and the next thing you know, her ex-husband is meeting up with the hitman, who he doesn't know is Ron.
Well,
I thought
he would have knew that it was Ron if he wasn't told to face the other way when they sat down. That's because he would have saw him right away. He would have recognized him because he wasn't.
He would have, and it would have blown his cover, and it would have compromised everything. That was very clever, and I think there's loads of instances where he's thinking on his feet and he's able to like pull off these moves, like calculative moves, but without really like stuttering or like, you know, falling for the pitfalls of like being trapped in any way. Like he's very slick with the way he goes about his business. And I thought that was a great example of Ron thinking, all right, I know how to flip this situation on its head. I'm just not going to face him and confront him. Like, I know I can't back out from this meeting because obviously I'll be the guy, I'll be suspected then.
Right.
So the best thing I could do is do this. And I thought those are the moments I really enjoyed seeing Ron in action, because it showed that Ron just wasn't a pretty face for Madison to fall in love with or for Madison to romance. He was a cool guy who Gary really actually wanted to embody personally.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting to see, and how he was able to fit that into his various hitman persona.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he could have put on one of his characters. He would have maybe tricked him.
He sure could. I mean, could you imagine the amount of field research one would have to pull off to consistently? I thought like that scene where they keep showing like the courtroom of all the convicts being trialed. That was also pretty grilling to watch, because like the lawyers, the defense is like constantly trying to grill on him and be like, oh, what you're doing is like horrible. Like you're just, you know, you're clearly like influencing them and you're trying to trap them and you're trying to get them to admit this.
Well, they're the ones that brought the money. So
exactly.
I don't think I feel any sympathy.
Yeah, because there's a moment in one of those scenes where he's being questioned, and I think he just like has like a what would Ron do at this moment, and he just like aggressively goes on offense and says like, well, something along the lines where like that's clearly what he wanted to do, and it's my job to like catch these people. End of the day. So you could see shades of a different character coming in. And I think the build up to the Jasper character entering back, because he's only introduced at the start for like 2 minutes. And he's kind of like he's kind of a scum who's like, he's envious of Gary. He's envious of the success he's had. But he's also clearly a bad, dirty cop because he's like jacked up a couple of teenagers at the start of the film. So they say. And he's been given like 120 days of suspension. But when he comes back, that's when the conflict really gets going. What did you think of that?
Oh, Jasper as a character, he's a lovable asshole. Like I really liked the way that the actor performed that. He definitely feels like a threat. He kind of feels like what Gary wished he was more like, more assertive, more takes what he wants. Somebody that doesn't like stand on the sidelines. I did enjoy any of the scenes where, just like that that scene at that bar or the nightclub where he pulls a gun on her husband, who we find out they're still married. And there's a scene where Jasper just sees them, eating at like an ice cream parlor or what have you, and they're just chilling, and they're both trying to play it as cool as they can because he's about to blow Gary's cover.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the tension between him and Gary.
That was awesome. Because they both knew what was going on.
They both knew, but they both didn't say anything until the right moment arrived. Mm-hmm. And as much as Jasper is a dirty character, he's pretty good at what he does, which is he's a cop. He's got a suspecting nose, and he's able to dig out that Gary is, involved with her. And I think the way he like tries to patronize Gary and like take him to the club, the nightclub where allegedly Madison was seen with another man pointing the gun at her ex.
Awesome.
I thought that was also pretty neat.
It was pretty funny. He's just like, oh, let's look for him.
Antagonistic tactic.
And then he goes up to him. We're like, oh, I don't see him here. Oh, he's like smelling him. I think I found him.
Yeah.
It's fucking asshole. I love it.
Yeah, the interplay between those two, and Gary's just like, what are you getting at? What's your point? You know? But I guess it really heats up when Madison's ex-husband is found dead, and all of a sudden Madison's the number one suspect because she's I think the beneficiary of his life insurance, which was tripled a few months ago to $1 million. So I guess my only gripe with some of the scenes in the film was like a lot of the action is left off screen. Did you have a problem with that? Because when they do get to the point where she did kill him, because turns out she was the one who killed him.
Right.
She just like says, yeah, she did, but
right.
I think the weight of the scene is lost a bit because there's not enough to back up what their relationship was like beyond that one scene in the club.
Right. Yeah. I feel like the movie definitely suffers because it didn't. It could have showed it in a way that you would understand exactly like all what's going on. And it really doesn't show on Madison's face that she killed a man. It's very, nonchalant. It's very like off the cut. It's like you went to go out do errands. Like it's like, oh yeah, took care of him. Yeah, yeah. And then they didn't show that. So you're left to go, okay, well, did she shoot him or poison him? But I think they said that he got shot or something in a drug bust. Like that was like the narrative that the police figured they deduced.
Yep. Apparently, there was a drug addict involved in a burglary or something like that,
right?
Who shot at him. So the weight of that is a bit lost upon, but I can see why they wouldn't show some scenes or why they couldn't, because obviously with $1 million suspected budget, I'm not sure you could afford to shoot a lot of these scenes. And if you practically look at it, the film doesn't have any stunts.
Right.
There's no real killing involved. I guess there is one death at the end, but there's nothing that would, be in a crazy action movie, no set piece, no sequences that, involve explosions or gunshots. It's pretty much a film that sort of works with its screenplay of drama and characterization to create conflict.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people talking.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue for sure, and I think one of the standout moments for me that I think one of my favorite scenes, apart from the montage, was when they finally like bring him around, where like finally he reveals his identity to her. Right. And he like freaks out and he's like, I'm Gary. And she's like, who the fuck is Gary? And that was a pretty funny scene because then he's like freaking out and he's like, I'm not a hitman. I'm a fake hitman and I'm Gary Johnson. And then he gets a call from the police department and they're like, yeah, Madison's the number one suspect. And Jasper connivingly convinces Gary to be the guy to get the evidence on her. And I like the way, he flips it where Jasper starts trying to, pin Gary down by being like, "Oh, did you speak to her again?" And then he's like, "I did, and you were there too. Remember? You met her as well."
He roped him in.
Yeah, he roped him in, which is again another standout moment of how like Ron was able to, Gary was able to use Ron and like not succumb to pressure. But the best example was the following scene where he goes in, where they're like, "Okay, go in there, get the evidence that she committed the crime,
all right,
and,
as Ron,
arrest her."
Because
as Ron,
the police they think that he hasn't been compromised yet. So he goes in there with he like types out all the words for her to say.
Yeah, he uses the notes app, and I thought that whole sequence there, like the performance from both the actors, was amazing because it was like 2-3 different things happening all at once. Like the police are hearing, they need to act for the microphone, but he finds this way of like using the Notes app, which we all use the Notes app. It's probably one of the most used apps in the world, to like quickly write a script to like forge a fake denial story where she didn't do it. And I thought that whole sequence was like, it was funny, it was thrilling, and I was just like, it had me on the edge of my seat because I was dreading like, oh, I hope like she doesn't say Gary at the end instead of Ron.
Just like
and I was so glad. Yeah, because that would have been a massive, like, I was expecting that. All right, for the most part of it, they pull it off, but there's a little giveaway there, and that's how he gets caught. But I love the fact that they were able to adapt, think on their feet, and just pull it off. And that, again, it goes to their chemistry as characters and as performers, that they were able to workshop that so well. But I really enjoyed that moment. What about you?
Oh, I was down. I was down for the ride. Like you said, on the edge of my seat, waiting for it to all go to shit. And I enjoyed that scene a lot. Like you said, stand out. Montage still my favorite. I loved that. Should have been the whole movie. Get those classroom scenes out of it. Yeah, another scene like that is the confrontation from Jasper. Like it's really intense. You're just like, ugh.
Right at the end.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
That moment where he like walks in and he's like relieved. Oh, like her name's cleared, and then sees Jasper drinking beers in the couch at Madison. Oh my god! At that moment as well, like, yeah, and at that moment as well, you'd expect Gary to succumb to pressure, but he plays it cool. They play it cool.
Yeah, Jasper's like, okay, well, I know you got life insurance, and I want that money for my silence, and that's the only way you guys are getting out of this. That's
and
great.
That could have worked, right? But knowing Jasper as a character, you just knew he was never gonna hold up his end of the bargain. So it was a bit of a twist already that she manages. I think she puts something in his beer, isn't it? That makes him.
Yeah, it's like some
incapacitated,
kind of, like drug, which is definitely the way that when most women typically commit murder in real life, they don't use guns, they don't use knives, they will use a less violent approach.
Yeah. Did it bother you that because end of it, in the end, it's sort of like they managed to knock him out.
Yep.
And they put they tie a bag of plastic bag over his head to sort of choke him out.
They don't do it. Gary does that, and that's like a full come around for his character. Like, he's fully committed into loving a killer and being a killer. Being not only an accomplice, but doing the final deed. And then they kind of like talk about what to do with a body, but again, like the husband's murder, they don't show it.
They don't, and that's the thing. There's a lot of things that are left off screen, and they come up with this wonderful master plan of like, yeah, we're just gonna get rid of his body.
Right.
He's gonna be drunk and probably died of cardiac arrest or something like that because he had health issues or whatever in his car, and your name's cleared, and we can basically start our life together. And we don't need to worry about anything. Do you think, like, was it problematic for you that the film in a way celebrates murder? I mean, I don't think
I don't have a problem with that. I'm messed up in the head. No, no. I
can't be fans of films if you're not crazy.
I think Old Boy is great. And in fact, when you were like, oh yeah, that movie was fucked. What are you talking about, John? I was like, oh yeah, that movie is kind of fucked. Yeah, that like Happy Go.
This is like vanilla compared to Old Boy, man.
Right. Now that's, well, not only that, I think Old Boy is a lot better movie. I thought the ending was all right. Could have did really anything. I think that that they should have shown them disposing the body, but because it's a dark comedy, they could have did it in like a dark comedic way. Like, so there's a lot of like online, like how to dispose of a body, like directions, like, oh, you got to get like a 50-gallon drum, and then you got to put a bunch of acid in the drum, and like, where are you getting the acid? They could have done like a whole thing about that, and that would have been I think that would have been amazing, but
something along the lines of The Nice Guys, where they found like this sort of funny, like rated R way of like showing like a dark comedic tone, where they could have shown a scene of them. I agree, disposing the body. I think it does miss out, but I do suspect that could be budget. It could be budget for sure. I mean, I do want to talk about what Richard Linklater had to say about this, because there were some very interesting things he said in an interview with the Variety, where he mentioned that Hollywood is scared. He said in an interview, he attributes that change to studios being afraid to take even small risks on adult-oriented dramas. And he says, you don't get fired for doing a sequel or an origin story, something that already exists. You don't get in trouble for what's obvious and commercial. What changed is that films got greenlit by the marketing department, and then it's become really safe choices. So it's interesting because he says Hitman is the kind of movie that 25 years ago could have made $200 million at the box office on a budget of 2% of that. And now they have to settle for streaming because traditional studios refused to bet on this film. They felt like they wanted Ron to be more of a real hitman. They had other gripes and issues with the film. And I think it says some very interesting things about the state of it's not only studios, but the state of films that are being out and how movie theaters are performing. Because you got to admit, this film, I mean, it is Netflix's best reviewed film in Rotten Tomatoes at 97%. And it did receive rave reviews at more than one film festival. It did well in Venice, Toronto, in London. So, you know, it's not only got great critical acclaim, but also you can see the quality it brings from its performances and script. But what do you think? I think it's a bit of a shame that this film didn't really got going. Yeah, and it took so long for it to find a place to project.
I feel like this is like a repeat of The Fall Guy, but it's like at a lot smaller level. Like the Fall Guy, hundreds of millions of dollars to film, and it obviously shows in their crazy stunts since the stunt movie. But I feel like this is like a lot lower budget version of that. It's just Hollywood's rejection of original films, original ideas. They want to remake something from 80 years ago, or they want to do Marvel Avengers 57, or even if it's like a horror movie, it's got to be a sequel. It's got to be the 15th installment in something that you don't really care about, but because your kids are teenagers, they're going to go see it play on their phones. And like not only that, but like movie theaters they're on life support. Like these movie studios need to pull their head out of their asses, and they need to back original ideas. They need to get people more excited about going to the movie theaters, whether or not,
especially this summer, right? Because
exactly.
like we've had the strikes, which has affected the summer blockbuster. I mean, Mad Max Furiosa bombed at the box office, had a pretty disappointing run when everyone gave it great reviews. It was acclaimed, but it just didn't resonate with audiences. The Fall Guy kind of underperformed. Apart from Dune 2, which is still, I believe, the current highest grossing film. And in my opinion, it is one of the best films, if not the best film of the year.
I did not like I got left on a cliffhanger in that one, though.
Well, we'll talk about that some other time.
Sounds good.
But it is disappointing to see, and I think I hope it doesn't affect, because you look at filmmakers like Richard Linklater. He's been around for a while, and it's just a shame to see a filmmaker who's quite proven has to struggle to this extent to get his film out there. I just think it puts a very negative image on what our future holds with original storytelling, because I really enjoyed it. I feel like we need more original, breezy rom-coms. I would watch this again, and I guess, should we talk about final thoughts and give it a rating?
Before we go right into that, I liked this movie, but I did not like it as much as you did. I don't think I could rewatch this movie because of those damn classroom scenes. And I'll let you start with the rating.
No, I'll let you start. You go first.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm curious to know.
So I've been up and down a little bit. I've had a little bit of time to think about this.
All right.
This movie does a lot of things right. Costume design, stellar, amazing. Just that whole montage of him like putting on different outfits and all that. I feel like that's probably where all the budget went. Just like it's crazy outfits and makeup and all that. I'm down for that. Classroom stuff. No, it sucks. I'm sure it was cheap to film those scenes, but I was bored, which is not good when you're watching a movie that you're bored. Like I want to pause it. I want to go do my laundry when I'm in these parts of the movie. And it sucks because there's so much like good parts of this film. Like there's these crazy scenes where he's like about to like trip up and totally spill the beans on whether or not he's an actual hitman. Thought this movie was all right. I give it a 7 out of 10.
Fair. And no, I agree. I think for me, like a lot of my gripes were structural issues and points of action that were left off screen. But again, that's understandable when you look at the fact that the film had a million to work with. But I do think like narratively, this is a stronger film than The Fall Guy. Although I feel like maybe The Fall Guy had more to play with and works in its favors. But also The Fall Guy had like again 2 really good leads. But I really enjoyed The Hitman. I do agree the classroom scenes were a drag, and I hated like having to keep coming back to that. Like just like Ron's coworkers, they're like, we don't like Gary. Gary's a straw. We want to hang out with Ron.
Want to have a beer with Ron?
Exactly. Well, he wants to take Ron as his sloppy second. He's down for it.
That was so gross.
Yeah, I do agree, but I think what I did enjoy was characterization, and I think for Glen Powell, it's like a great role to sink his teeth in and really go inventive, and the fact that he had a credit to write it and also produce it adds to that. I'd like to give it an 8 out of 10. I understand why you gave it a 7. That's not a bad thing by any means. I think it's probably a lower 8 for me.
Yeah.
It's a lower 8 for me. I wouldn't give it like a higher 8. But what I did enjoy was the chemistry was great. I really loved Adria Arjona's performance. She was like spectacular. She's breathtaking to watch, and her chemistry with Glen Powell was really good. Enjoyed their little interplay, and I liked the script. The dialogue and the screenplay was good. I feel like some scenes could have been shortened, and that could have allowed for other scenes to be added into the film, which could have been better. But overall, I think it was really good. It was really good seeing a director do a different genre, because Richard Linklater, I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of his other works, but he's never really done anything within the crime or black comedy genre necessarily. So it was nice to see that. It was nice to see a fresh take on this story, and the fact that it was kind of inspired by a real guy was pretty cool. Enjoyed the different characters and costumes, and it's a breezy watch for me. I guess that's my final thoughts. Anything you'd like to add? Or
if yours is a lower 8, mine's a lower 7. Just saying.
That's fine. That is fine.
It's not a bad review. No, in fact, like my ratings on my anime list, I am notorious for giving 7s to things that probably neither don't deserve it or they deserve a better score.
Yeah, I'm also hesitant to give films higher ratings. We've done what, 6 films, 6 projects now. I've not given a single 10 out of 10, even though we constantly challenge ourselves to pick the most out there zany things that we can talk about. So I like that. I think it needs to be earned and really accomplished to receive that sort of praise. But it's nice because it sort of opens up discussion, and there's different ways we can go about it. So I'm happy with it. I think both our ratings really echo how we feel about the film. At least it's not as horrible as these other B, C grade rom-coms that Netflix puts out every Christmas.
Adam Sandler
has a lifetime contract with Netflix, so he ain't going away.
Lifetime contract of getting a free vacation for his family.
You know what I liked was the fact that he's publicly admitted that the reason why he still makes films and makes like films with a lot of his like favorite like friends or
his friend group,
his best co-stars, is just because he can hang out with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fair enough, but yeah. I found that funny.
He hasn't been good in a long time.
No, I think he has been. Have you not watched Uncut Gems?
Yes, I have. That was his last performance.
But it was phenomenal. That was the best performance he's given ever, in my opinion.
Still got it.
He can. He's shown he has it, but
right.
All
right. So you were talking about zany weird things. Well, do I have something spicy for you? I'm going to go right into my recommendation. We already talked about it previously, so this isn't a complete blindside. So I like anime, and I like magical girl anime, because this is weird. My recommendation is the Japanese will be Mahojo Magica Madoka, or I don't know how this is English. It's probably more Latin. Puella Magi Madoka Magica. So
it's quite a mouthful, mate.
It is. I would just call it Madoka, if I'm going to be honest. It's from 2012. Right. So it's from a little bit while ago, but, I watched this show all in like, one binge. Like that's how good it was. It was the first 12 episodes.
Is that how you recommend I should watch it as well?
Sure. Absolutely. If you have the time, it's 12 episodes. They're 20 something minutes apart. And I'm sure, no spoilers, here, but I'm sure you will definitely be messaging me about it like pretty early on. You're like, what the hell did you just make me watch? And if you'd like extra credit, there's a sequel to this, but you don't necessarily have to watch it. So they re-released this show as a movie series, as a 3-movie set. And that third movie is a continuation of the anime. So if you feel so enticed or you have time, feel free to check it out. But, so I'll give you the synopsis. So I'm going to butcher these names. Madoka, Kaname, and Sayaka Miki are regular middle school girls with regular lives. But all that changes when they encounter Kyubei, a magical cat-like familiar, and Homura Akemi, the new transfer student. Kyubei offers them a proposition. He will grant any one of their wishes, and in exchange, they will become a magical girl, gaining enough power to fulfill their dreams. However, Homura Akemi, a magical girl herself, urges them not to accept the offer, stating that everything is not what it seems. If you don't want to be spoiled for the next podcast, go check out Madoka. You have anything else to add, Adi?
I'm intrigued, and I'll be high watching it for sure.
Alrighty.
See you then.
Yep, on that note, see you, Space Cowboy.